Hey, peace everybody. Again, this is Brother 93 hitting y'all with the disclaimer. Anybody featured in this video or any of the videos I'm doing, this is not a personal attack on any of them. Again, this is like clips from older videos, but the information is important, so we got to get it out there. We are attacking the arguments, not the individuals. Do not attack any of the individuals. It's not personal. So we're going to deal with Robert Knox and his arguments. Peace.
All right, here's another source from 19th century Scottish anatomist, ethnologist Robert Knox. Now, this is the same Robert Knox I showed that was featured with the racist, that whoever that guy, that the other fellow was, that he tried to connect with my source, Bedo. But I'm not going to do what he does and try to invalidate them because of the proximity or being in the same book or another part of the book somebody said something that's wrong. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to deal with Robert Knox because it's not that big a deal, right? He said that Robert Knox emphatically states that the Jews are not European, but are African Asiatic, which I agree. He uses words like dark tawny and yellow colored to describe them, but makes it clear multiple times that they are African, not European. Being in Africa, Tazara, there are various skin tones, right? So dark tawny, yellow colored, you can see a Khoisan person who I might or may not have genetic affinities to. Those people are not dark. They could be described as dark, tawny, or yellow colored because they certainly are. You have people in North Africa who are not Negroes that have that skin tone. Them being African or in Africa has no bearing on their descendancy or their relation, their genetic relation to African Americans. Just keep that in mind. You all are playing the skin color thing. We're just responding, right?
Right.
So they're described as African, not European. We're going to see rap. This is his source. Page 300, this is Knox. I'm going to read what Knox say. In the history of the Jewish, Coptic, and Gypsy races, there's a three right here, Jewish, Coptic, and Gypsy races, the great question of the extinction of race has been considered. These races, placed by theorists with the so-called Caucasian race, and at the head of the Caucasian family, I consider as belonging to the dark races of men. Keep that in mind, not only the Jews, but the Copts and the Gypsies, right? He said they belong to dark races of men, in his opinion. They are African and Asiatic, not European. The purest of the Jewish race is a dark, tawny, yellow-colored person with jet black hair and eyes seemingly colored. There is no mistaking the race when pure. It is Egyptian, that is African. So when he said that they are African, he's being specific with the Jews. He's saying they're Egyptian or they look like Egyptians, right? But bear in mind these other two because they belong to the dark. They belong to the dark races of men. And we're going to see what they look like, right? I'm going to quote Tudor Parfitt's Hybrid Hate, page 215. The conflation of Jew and Negro was constructed on the earlier foundations of centuries of writing and thought, detailing the inseparable links between Jews and Negroes and their unique position in the world as people apart from the generality of humankind. All right, I'm gonna move on. The anti-Semite Robert Knox was one of the first 19th century physical anthropologists to argue unambiguously that Jews were of Negro origin. His thinking, as set out in his book, Races of Men, has to be viewed against the backdrop of the fight for political emancipation of British Jews, which Knox opposed, but which, when he was writing his book, was well on the way to being won. Knox's disappointment with this turn of events drips off the page. Anticipating the arguments of the German anti-Semite Wilhelm Marr a few years later, he argued that the Jews had no right to emancipation. They were categorically not part of the Caucasian race. Indeed, they belonged to the dark races of men. They were African. So this is who you quoting, but you're saying something is wrong with us if we did quote someone who believed in the Hamitic race theory, but you're quoting someone who is an anti-Semite. But that, you know, in all honesty, he could be that, and that's wrong. But if he said something that's true, it's true. We're not playing games here. I don't have to play the games you play, sir. So this is page 190, right? This is regarding, I'm sorry, no, it's at the bottom, I'm sorry. Page 190. So he's comparing modern Jews in Amsterdam to the Egyptians, specifically Ramses. His comparisons of Jews with African Egyptians. See down here? But what particularly, English language. But what fascinated him the most was the colossal granite head from Thebes of the 19th dynasty pharaoh Ramses, which had been acquired by the British Museum in 1821 and had become known in London as the Young Memnon. Now, anybody who know what Young Memnon is, that's Ramses. Y'all can look it up. I'm gonna show it anyway. But this is what Knox wrote. Willing to embrace every opportunity of looking at those glorious specimens of art in the British Museum, I repaired to the museum, where again contemplating the bust of the Young Memnon, this is Ramses, new light broke at once on my view. It seemed to me that I had, at one time or another, and that even lately, seen persons who might have set to a sculptor for the likeness of the head of the Coptic prince. So he thinking that he's seen people that look like Ramses in real life, right? That the precise features and forms, even to the most perfect resemblance of look, were to be found to this day unaltered in Britain. That the Coptic blood, or at least race analogous, remain unaltered and strongly affiliated, even to this day here in Britain. This fact, for such I felt convinced it was, excited in my mind the deepest reflections, right? So Knox didn't really like the Jews. His observation...
Real quick. Can you stop presenting? I'm going to show something. This is from... it deals with Knox, unless you already dealt with it. So this is from...
You can come after me, so I gotta
Got you.
run through. I got an hour. Knox really didn't like the Jews. His observation that Jews seem to have been trafficking in cast-off garments since Rome itself was founded. Okay, I'm gonna move. Knox already decided that at some point soon he should visit Amsterdam, where there is a large Jewish community, right? All right, you see the quote here again. Young Memnon, he was anxious to visit the Jewish quarter of Amsterdam, where I was told I should meet with 10,000 Israelites, male and female, walking about or in collected groups, right? In collected groups apart to a certain extent from the other race, the Saxon, strongly contrasted with the Jew. Now, this is not any of their arguments, but this man is saying that the Saxons is strongly contrasted with the Jew. So all y'all that try to say the Saxons are Jews, here's somebody saying that they have a strong contrast with the Jew. Right? Having repaired to the quarter of the city occupied by this race in Amsterdam, I found the synagogue open and crowded. Divine worship was going on. The people were standing in crowds around the altar. It was not proper to take off the hat. Near me, almost within reach, stood a youth about 16, and not far from him, others, the perfect likeness of young Memnon. Now, he went in Amsterdam into their synagogue, and he said right there within reach, a youth 16 years old with the perfect likeness of young Memnon, right? In that fixed look, nothing could be seen more than in the statue. This is the original source right here, right? Primary source where Knox equates modern Jews in Amsterdam with Egyptians. This is page 137 in his book, The Races of Men, a Fragment, by Robert Knox. He did this in 1850. Thus, I learned that originally the ancient Copt and a large section of the Jewish people were one and the same race with slight differences, however, which the Egyptian sculptor knew how to caricature, right? Right. I mean, the head of young Memnon, although it really be the bust of Amenhotep II. This is what he's saying, right? He's talking about the Jewish race. But the land of Egypt still abounds with its ancient monuments. The race was quite peculiar and was, I think, African, or at least allied to the African races. The mouth and lips all but prove this. This is the same thing they say about Jews. Look at their lips. Look at their head shape. Look at their nose. Nevertheless, their identity with a great section of the present modern Jewish race cannot be doubted. The young Jew of London or Amsterdam might readily sit for a likeness of the bust of Amenhotep. That's him. That's him. Thick lips.
Real quick.
Broad nose.
And real quick, let me just say this right now. I have an article that shows that Knox's position was actually the minority position. And I'm going to show later what the majority position from the anthropologists of that period were for the exact same Jews that Knox was talking about.
So this is Memnon. Now, to me, this looks like an ancient Egyptian. We know the Egyptians were people of color. We know their phenotype did range. Anybody who is honest about their genetics know that the Egyptians were mixed up people. They were African because they lived in Africa, but their genes were indigenous African and mixed with people from the Levant. They didn't have the real hang-up of mixing necessarily because they were mixed up, especially at various periods. This is what he's saying. Not saying I necessarily agree with seeing this with a Jew in Amsterdam, the ones I'm about to show contemporary to the time, but, you know, people have different phenotypes of skin tones. You never know, right? These are Haggadahs of Jews of Amsterdam, contemporary to the time. He wrote his book in 1850, and I'm showing ones from 1751, and this other one I think is 1769. I forgot to put the time of it. 1751 is on the right. See these guys? These are not Negroids. I don't know what the actual skin color was, but regardless, these are not Negroids. On the left, I don't know what this fella doing dressed up like a rabbit. I don't know why he's doing that.
Right.
I don't know why he's, don't ask me that.
Who framed Roger Rabbit? That's right.
Yeah. This fella just sitting here chilling. So, I got another one. Manasseh ben Israel. This is the one I believe who wrote the book about the Native Americans being Hebrews. He was born 1604, died 1657. The one on the left is from 1647, so this is before he died, right? He is a Portuguese Jew who lived in Amsterdam. Now, in Amsterdam, you had Sephardic Jews who owned slaves. Jonathan Shorts mentions that in his book. I didn't mention it, but I'm just telling you that that's a documented fact that Sephardic Jews lived in Amsterdam and had black slaves. And the other one...
and that man definitely is not black.
This one is Rembrandt. Rembrandt did this one. I mean, hey, it is what it is. I just wanted to throw this one in again, that Adam Gurowski, right? He notes on how modern-day non-black Jews look similar to mixed mulatto people, right? He's in Poland. He said the number of Jews have the greatest resemblance to American mulattoes, right? I took every light-colored mulatto for a Jew. When he came to America, he thought mulatto people were Jews. They must have been tan or brown or whatever. This is the likeness. So speaking of earlier, he said, yellow, what, dark tawny yellow color, right? Said the Jews were, and his source includes Coptic and Gypsy races as being the dark races. I'm gonna show you what Coptic and Jewish people look like. There's a Coptic family here. Sorry, these are the Roma people. That's the way you pronounce respectfully their name. Gypsies, I think that's an offensive term. They're certainly kind of brown. Well, these specifically, I don't want to get into the
brown to light. Yeah.
They're not white, they're not black, but I can see how somebody can say they're dark-ish, yellow-ish, tawny-ish. You know what I'm saying? These are the other people included of the dark races that he groups together. It's another example: dark, tawny, yellow, olive. And we're not afraid to show actual.
That dude in the middle looked like Tony Parker, like the NBA player.
Jesse Williams, I believe, the actor. He's mixed race, but this is we just talking about the skin tone. This woman right here obviously is not. She's of a different ethnicity, but she had brown skin. So is this guy. She's a beautiful woman. We're gonna show the dark ones. I showed this. What's the problem with showing dark Jews, Syrians, right? This is in Dura, Europa. There's people in Syria today with the skin tone. And look, there's also people in Syria that look like this, lighter skinned, fair Jews. What's the problem?
Show them Aaron.
This is 3rd century. I have no problem with Jews being dark or even described as black like this, but that doesn't mean that they're your ancestors.
Right.
They could have originally been like this. They could have originally been like this. They could have originally been like both, and I don't have a problem. This is Aaron. This is Dura Europa. It's 3rd century. They're showing Aaron. He's certainly tan skinned. He's not a white man, not a black man. Even if he was darker, he still wouldn't be your ancestor. I don't see the problem. Here, look, I showed the same thing. Yemenite Jews, the Ketubah, which is their marriage document, the left. This is in Israel, right? This is in the 6th century, the Beit Alpha Synagogue. Just as brown, depicted as the people in Yemen right here. Doesn't mean they're African Americans. You have to do more research. These are Syrians, swarthy skin, brown skin. So Yemenites, swarthy, brown, similar to the Syrians. Let's keep going.